Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. Well, in today's video, I want to go through some changes that I've made over the last several months and just let you know what I've thought of these changes. Some of them have been brought on because people have criticized the way that I shoot, and some of them have been brought on because I just wanted to try something different. So I made three major changes for basically my nature, my wildlife photos. The first big change was I switched from using the 70D body to using a 5D Mark IV body. The second change was I started shooting RAW and JPEGs. And the third change was one that I wasn't expecting to do, but I decided to play with it. And that was I changed my custom setting so that it automatically resets the custom setting when I make an adjustment. So let me explain the different things. First, switching to the 5D Mark IV body. I had so many people make little critical comments about me using a Canon 70D. And they says, well, if you had the money, you would buy. Well, I have 5D Mark IVs. So I thought, I'm going to try the 5D Mark IVs. Has it made a huge difference in my photography? Quality-wise, honestly, if you nail the picture, if it's exposed properly, if it's sharp with the 70D, and it looks good with the 70D as it does with the 5D Mark IV. Do I have a bit more dynamic range with the 5D Mark IV? Yeah. Do I have less grain with the 5D Mark IV? Generally, no. But at the higher ISOs, yes. The biggest issue that I found is with the 5D Mark IV versus the 70D is I lost that little 1.6 crop factor. And I found that was a pain. I did not like it. But the thing that I liked so much was whenever I leave the vehicle, whenever I go out shooting for a day and I pack up gear, I've been packing multiple bodies, and then I head out and I carry a backpack with a body and some lenses, and then another body and lens over my shoulder, or a big backpack, which I really can't carry with my health. And switching just to the 5D Mark IV for doing my landscapes, my waterfalls, and then being able to put on the bigger lens and do my animals, I've really liked that. I've really liked that. Quality-wise, like I said, a little different, but not a huge difference. In fact, I went out and did some shooting at a local lake that I do a lot of bird pictures at. I took the 5D Mark IV. When I came back, I obviously had to crop to get it a little bit closer for some of my pictures, so they were the same as the 70D. Then I pulled up the similar bird pictures that I shot previous years, and I compared them side by side. The difference, so little that it's ridiculous. Was there differences? Yeah, there was some differences. I noticed in the 5D Mark IV, the whites were not blown out as much as they were with the 70D. That could be a generational thing. That could be because one was a crop sensor, one was a full-size sensor. Could be for many different things. But I did notice in some pictures, and I don't mean all of them, but some, there was a difference. I did miss that crop factor. So I'm considering if I continue doing this, which I think I'm probably going to do, I'm going to get myself a 1.4 converter and put it on the lens, which will get me closer to what I had for the 70D. Other than that, like I said, higher ISOs, yes, the 5D Mark IV is much better than the 70D, but that's comparing the 70D, which is several generations ago, or I should say a couple generations ago, and many years ago, comparing to the 5D Mark IV, which is a newer camera. So, apples to tangerines. I'll continue doing it. I love only carrying the one body in the backpack. I can put everything in the backpack and not have anything over my shoulder. So that's been a huge difference. Next one that I got a lot of criticism for was, well, why don't you shoot RAW? RAW would make that picture look so much better. In fact, just a month ago, somebody put a post or a response to one of my posts up saying, well, if you would have shot RAW, you could have got a better sky view. Well, I wanted a blown out sky because it was a cold, drizzly day. I didn't want a blue sky, and there was no blue sky to get. So even if I would have had the raw image, which I did actually, if I would have used it, I still wouldn't have gotten any more detail of the sky. It was the shot I wanted. So what do I think about shooting RAW and JPEGs? Well, I tried it. And I tried it all summer. I shot tens of thousands of pictures, RAW and JPEGs. I brought them back. I put the RAW and the JPEGs on the computer. I went into the RAWs. I did my editing. Then I put them aside. And then a day later or 2 days later, I went in with the JPEGs, did my editing, put them in a folder. Then I compared what I did with my editing. The difference was negligible, very negligible. There was a difference on a few pictures. Like I said, with the whites again, I was able to reduce some of the blown out areas. I was able to pull back a little bit more detail in some of the darker areas. But overall, for sharpness, for everything like that, yeah, the difference was negligible, people. And yes, I've made prints from them, some big prints, some 24 by 36s. I've cropped some and made some other 16 by 24s using half the image just from JPEGs. And then I tried it in RAW and put them side by side. And yeah, the difference was negligible. Again, do I think that you should only shoot JPEGs? No. Do I think you should change from JPEGs to RAW? No. But do I think that it's something that you should try and see if it improves your photography? Sure. But like I said, for my photography, not a big deal. I even started shooting JPEGs and RAWs when I did studio work and location shoots. And I tried editing from the RAWs. And honestly, it took more of my time to edit from the RAWs, and it just wasn't worth it. So, again, will I continue shooting it? Probably. I like with the 5D Mark IV that I have 2 cards, so I'll probably shoot 1 RAW, 1 JPEG. So if anything should happen with either card, I have backups. But other than that, for quality-wise, I've still got pictures all over my walls, massive pictures shot from JPEGs. I got a couple more of RAWs. The difference, though, was negligible. The third change I made, again, I use custom settings a lot. I like custom settings. On my 5D Mark IVs, I have a custom setting for studio, because when I come in and I want to shoot in the studio, then I can just change it to that. Even on my 70Ds, I have the custom setting for studio, because it's just so much easier when I'm running into the studio. No matter what camera I grab, I can change it to the custom setting, and I have it all set up for my studio lights and everything. So on the 5D Mark IVs, I actually changed the 3 custom settings to the following. The first custom setting, number 1, was for birds in flight. Number 2 was for everything else that I was using the big lens for. And number 3 is my studio setting. I then set it so that I could change the settings on the fly and they would not reset back to how I had them. Now, when I first did this, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Because I like having a custom setting that when you flip to it, you know where it's all set and it never changes. And for the first few times that I did it, I flipped back and it wasn't where it was supposed to be. It had been where I finished shooting. I did not like it at all. And then I shot it more and more and more, and I found out that I actually did like it for the following reason. If I had the settings set up, which I do on manual, I do, F9, because that's where I find that lens is the sharpest. And then I can set my ISO and my shutter speed. I could set the ISO and shutter speed for bright sunshine. I could then go from that custom setting to another one and come back, and it was still set up for the sunshine. I could set it for shade, change to a different setting, do video, do whatever I'm doing, then go back to that custom setting, and it was still set for shade. The drawback is that I lose the ability to figure out or to know what it's set at without thinking about it. And that's what I liked with custom settings in the past. I knew my custom settings were set for 800 ISO, f9, and the shutter speed was usually around 400 to 800, somewhere in that range, depending if it was bright or whatever, how I set it up. And that's where I knew it was. And I knew where my starting point was. With it changing, with it allowing it to do the changes that I put into it as I'm shooting, it's not as consistent for shooting the next day or the day after or the day after, but it's more consistent for shooting during that day in the same lighting conditions. So I think I'm probably going to leave it there. So overall, how did those 3 changes do for quality of my prints? I don't think the quality of my prints changed for the worst or for the better. I think it just made them different. How did it change for the number of keepers that I've got? Again, I don't think it was anything hugely different from one to the other. Did I get a few more? Probably. Did I get a few less in some situations? Probably. How about for ease of shooting? Again, other than not having to carry the two bodies, not a lot is different. So would I say if you're currently shooting with a 70D or an 80D or 90D that you need to shoot with a 5D Mark IV? No. Would I say you have to switch up to a mirrorless full frame? No. If you're getting good pictures with what you're using, don't change it. It does no good. I did it because I wanted something to experiment with. I wanted to change things up, see if I was doing anything wrong. Like I do here at the studio. Once a year, I go through all my printer setups and all my custom profiles and everything to make sure they're good. And usually by the time I'm done that, I've spent thousands of dollars in ink and paper and my time. I find out that everything was fine to begin with. But it was like this with photography. I wanted to see if there was a difference. So until next time, get out there, take some pictures, enjoy when you're taking the pictures, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.